You get what you tolerate. How can you level up your standards to redesign and reshape the life that you're leading? One of the key tools that I'm constantly amazed by and rediscover every time is the idea of leveling up your standards. It's something I forget about, and then I'm exposed to maybe someone's content, Tony Robbins' content, Castillo, read a book, and then I realize, it's time to level up my standards again. Because the truth is, we become complacent. We get used to doing certain things in a certain way. We become familiar with doing it that way, and we stop to question it. This happens even to me, even though I work as a high-performance coach, that I'm exposed to this content a lot, that I'm passionate about this topic. After a while, you just start doing things in the same way. And unless you wake up and shift and remember that it's time to level up, you can continue like this for 5 or 10 years or your entire life. So what does it look like to actually upgrade your standards, and why does it even matter? The reason it matters is you get what you tolerate. This means that if you tolerate being late, you will continue to be late. If you tolerate having poor health, you will continue to have poor health. If you tolerate toxic relationships, you will continue to have toxic relationships. If you tolerate a business that is struggling and not doing well financially, you will continue to have a struggling business. If you tolerate many of your traits and personality things and skills and whatever it is, you will continue to have it. What does it mean to tolerate? Tolerate means that you're not satisfied with it, but you put up with it. You let it be. You don't try to change it. It's this sort of underlying dissatisfaction, but it's not acute enough that you do anything about it. We know what it's like. It's this nagging feeling of, yeah, I should exercise, but I guess it's okay. Really, I should go to bed early, but whatever. Maybe I could try this a bit more in the business, and maybe I'll do that soon, or it can wait. And we get this feeling behind that really we should be doing it, or we could change it, but we're tolerating that it's that way. And you know that you're tolerating it because it's still like that. If you're just complaining about your boss or your work or a certain situation in your life and you're not taking any action to change it, this means actually you've said it's okay. Because if it really wasn't okay, you'd do something about it. And it's amazing, and this is something that I'm constantly astonished about in my own life and also working with my clients, how much we tolerate. We tolerate sometimes a feeling of feeling helpless. We tolerate this learned helplessness. We tolerate a scarcity mindset. We tolerate certain of our traits that we maybe don't like about ourselves, but we tolerate them because we don't want to put in the energy to change them, because the pain isn't strong enough that we need to change them, because we don't know that there's another way. Maybe we don't need to be in scarcity mindset. Maybe we could be in abundance mindset. Maybe we don't need to be impatient or frustrated. Maybe we can cultivate patience. Maybe we don't need to be hard on ourselves and we can learn compassion. Maybe we don't need to overindulge in certain unhealthy foods or unhealthy habits, and we can shift to a healthier way of living. But for that to happen, a few things need to take place. First of all, we need to go from this mild background suffering to acute pain. There needs to be a huge internal shift where you think, I am no longer willing to tolerate this. I will not put up with this in my life. I won't tolerate being unhealthy anymore. I won't tolerate these toxic relationships anymore. I won't tolerate business struggling. I won't tolerate a toxic work environment. I won't tolerate these things, and I will do something about it. Because change happens through action. First through understanding, then through an identity shift, and then through taking action. So first, there needs to be this acute pain where you realize that it's not aligned anymore, you're not willing to put up with it anymore, and you're going to do something about it. Then you start to take action towards creating that change. And that's where the new standards come in. Because you've got the original standards, which are maybe, if we look at a healthy lifestyle, it's an easy example. Original standards is it would be good if I exercise, but hey, even once a week is fine. That's original standard. Or just 5 minutes here and there is okay. Original standard. New standard is every day for at least 15 minutes. So you create this new standard, which is a set of principles, habits, beliefs, way of acting, showing up, attitude, new standards, and then you start to work towards that. If we look, for instance, in some of our character personalities. So I used to be extremely impatient. I really wanted to cultivate patience. So original standard was, I'm impatient. New standard was clear examples where if I'm at a traffic light, I will wait and breathe and cross when it's green. I did this for a while. I really practiced in certain moments in the queue or when I was waiting at a traffic light to just stay in stillness. And I trained myself to not be so impatient. So I trained my patience. Old standard could be never meditating. There used to be a time I would do yoga and skip the last moment where you meditate. And then the new standard, meditate every day or several times a week. So these new standards are habits, principles, beliefs, identity shifts that help you to move from a certain way you're living and acting and behaving to a new way. Few really, really important points here. First of all, not too high too fast. We want new standards, we want an upgrade, but you can't go from never exercising to working out every day 2 hours. First of all, it's probably not healthy for the body. And second of all, it's very unlikely that you'll stick at it. So we want to be new, somewhat a bit challenging, but achievable. Because if we don't do that, we're just kicking ourselves in the foot. We won't make that progress. So we want it to be new, but within our reach. Then one area at a time. Having tried a million times to change so many habits, so many new goals all at the same time, and then dropped it all within a week or two. I've tried this many times, even with productivity tools I had, personal development, a ton of motivation and willpower, even having different systems in place so I didn't forget it. And after about a month, I was just exhausted. I remember this one new year where I thought I'd cook a new recipe every day. I would learn some more Swedish every day. And there were about 3 other habits. There were 5 new things I wanted to do every day. And even though I've spoken about the importance of only doing one area at a time, I believe in this as a concept, I still was determined that I could somehow manage. It didn't work. It didn't work, guys. I didn't do a recipe every single day, plus learn Swedish every day, plus the other 3 habits. And then I shifted and did just one of them, and I changed the way I focus on all of that. So one area at a time. Now you can define your new standards everywhere. That's great. You do a whole identity upgrade, and then you focus mostly on one of them. What can happen is as you're focusing on, let's say, building this new standard where you meditate every day, it might also help you with that other new standard of being more patient. It might impact some of the new standards. So you might work on one. That's when it's a keystone habit. So if you have a keystone habit, for instance, of exercising every day, this might help you to improve also your sleep and your patience and how calm you feel. It might impact several areas, in which case it helps you with the new standard. So working on one of them might impact several areas, but you want to put your whole focus on just one of them, at least for a month. Because if you do that, you make it more sustainable, you can keep the focus on it, you can remember, you can track it, and this helps it to be more real. Now, if on the other hand, you think, I'll meditate every day, and then you add exercise, and then you'll read every evening, and then you'll go to bed early, and then unless you do some sort of habit stacking big concept, based on what James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, where you put together one habit, then the next, then I guess you could do all 5 in one go every day. For example, you could meditate, then exercise, then journal, then read, and just do all of that together in one block. This is what happens when people read the 5 a.m. club and get all motivated. And they start at 5 a.m. and they do the habit stacking of the meditation and the journaling and the exercise. That's technically 3-4 habits in one. But because they're all in one go, that can work. It is still more challenging because it's building all these new behaviors in one go, but it can feel like one block. So that's one option. Otherwise, you just build one area, then the next. When you're setting your new standards, you can take inspiration from other role models, from people you listen to or that you read, things that inspire you, and also based on the sort of person you'd like to become. And this is based on how you feel about certain of your character traits, and also based on if you project yourself in the future, how do you see yourself? More calm, grounded, more positive. And the idea isn't to become perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person. The idea is just to become a bit more like who you really are deep down. We're all deep down kind, calm, harmonious people. But we got hurt in our life and we learned different behaviors. And this sometimes has made us more frustrated or impatient or unkind because of these experiences that we've had and past traumas. So it's essentially relearning to be that kind, calm soul that we all are in our depth. So you base your new standards on the person you like to become, on certain of your role models, and also on what you want in your life. Because these standards help to define the quality of your life. If you're willing to accept the way someone is treating you in your work environment or your lifestyle or certain elements of your life, if you're just willing to settle for that, then you're never going to upgrade to the next version. It's a fine balance. This is so important for the high achievers listening and watching this. It's so important to have a balance between acceptance of where you're at, gratitude for your current situation, and constantly leveling up. Because if all you have is gratitude for where you're at, this can lead you to be more settling, complacent, not leveling up, and frustrated over time. But if all you have is the ambition and drive to change your life every 5 seconds, then you're not appreciating also how far you've come. This is what happens to many people who build 6-7 figure businesses and they still haven't arrived. They're still not satisfied yet. And they're always looking for that next. We need a mix where we both appreciate how far we've come, but look how we can level it up. This is why we're not changing our standards every day or every week. Every 6 months to every year, have a bit of an audit, different areas in our life, and we think, okay, this is one area I'm really not satisfied in, or this is one personality trait, or this is one behavior I really want to shift. New standard, level up, next step. From that place, we can rebuild and redesign different areas in our life. Change happens in an organic way, naturally, but if we don't take control of the reins, we can deteriorate as we change. We can become more complacent or more comfortable or build new habits that really don't serve us just over time because we become more complacent. So instead, we want to take control of the rein and define our new standards. Raise your standards. Tony Robbins says this. And I like to remember this because life is growth. Life is growing and learning and becoming and constantly changing and evolving. And we can choose how we do this. And when you define your new standards, that's the moment for you to sit down, audit your life, look at the different categories and think, right, we're starting here. If you've got no idea where to begin, have a bit of an audit. Different areas of your life. This could be health, relationship, business, wealth, spirituality. And whichever one is the most painful for you, whichever you feel like, I really don't want to tolerate this anymore. I really want this to change. This doesn't feel right anymore. I don't want to put up with this. Start there, right? Start the most painful. We all have these pain points. This is also something that maybe people don't talk about often enough, is that when you watch all these people on YouTube or influencers or thought leaders or whatever it is, we think they have it all together. No, they don't. They're just constantly upgrading standards in different areas. And they're also going through rough times in things that aren't always visible on the internet. So it's also important to remember each their own journey here. It's not a comparison. It's not new standards to beat someone else. It's not a competition. It's just you leading a life that's aligned and fulfilling and satisfactory with where you want to be and what's important for you. And that can be done. And it's done brick by brick, life area by life area, new standard, new habits in place, new behaviors. And sometimes I'm astounded that I forget where I've come from. I never used to exercise. I was terrible at sports at school. I never thought that I needed to exercise because I was slim, which is the most terrible way of thinking ever. But that's how I used to think. And it was only, 5-7 years ago that I started to get into exercise, first through yoga and then running. And now I was geeking out about strength training with a friend yesterday. And we were comparing different methods and talk about different strength training exercises and calisthenics and all these things. And then I forget I was someone who hated sports and exercise and who never exercised. And now I geek out about these things and exercise pretty much every single day. We can change. You can build these new habits. I desperately wanted to be someone who is fit and healthy and exercised, and I just didn't know how to do it. But the way you do it is you shift the new standard. The new standard became, I exercise every day. You start small. I started with 15 minutes a day. Now I'm on 25 minutes a day. And then you put in the practice, you put in the reps, you listen to different people who influence the way you think, you track your progress. Every time you fall and you struggle, you start again, you experiment. So for instance, you look, when's the best time for you to put this habit in place? Does that work? Doesn't it not? All of this can work if you have a really strong reason behind it. If your why is really strong, which is why I said that pain for change and transformation needs to be really acute. So if the pain is really strong, which is what I felt when it came to exercising, if that pain is really strong, then the transformation will happen because you'll experiment and you'll try again and you'll read about it and you'll get coaches and mentors and you'll get support and an accountability person. And at one point, something will work because if you stick at things long enough, at one point, it pays off. There's a change, there's a transformation, things happen. So that's why shifting from your old standards to your new standards impacts your identity, impacts your behavior, the actions you take, the person you become, the results that you get in your life. And if this can be applied to health, it can also be applied to relationships by practicing, for example, nonviolent communication. That's a practice, that's a habit, that's maybe a new standard. It can be applied to business, how you show up in your marketing, how you do your sales calls, how you have a new team to support you. It can impact all the areas in your life, but it all comes from stop tolerating what's no longer serving you. Stop tolerating things that are holding you back, obstacles in the way, and actually start to embrace new standards, new ways you want to show up for yourself and for others in the world, because this is who you are deep down. This is who you want to be. This is the person you want to be. This is how you want to have an impact in the world and for your own self and for others. And that becomes your new standard. If you're new to the show, my name is Keystone. I work as a conscious leadership and high performance coach, speaker, and podcaster. If you're new, please subscribe, leave a comment, a like, share the video or podcast episode. Any questions, please let me know. I love to dive into these things and answer any questions you have on the topic. Thank you so much for tuning in today and see you in the next episode.